In the past, we created some what-ifs. One of the ones that sort of started the trend of us creating a whole new scenario outside of established canon was what if Kushina survived? After that, we tried our hands not once, but twice in What If Minato Survived, telling two separate stories about that same topic. But something I have long since wanted to do, but never had the chance to until one of you happy viewers passed along the idea is, what if they both survived? Surely Minato and Kushina together could make a big change for Naruto in his life. But how? I guess we'll just have to wait and see now, won't we? Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed, and with that out of the way, let's get into the video. The night it all happened was both the happiest and most frightening night in Minato's life. His wife, having been 9 months pregnant, had finally felt her water break. She started going into labor, and so Minato, trembling, made a few calls. The mystery of childbirth and the stresses of fatherhood left Minato shaken. Why was he? Why should he be? He was the Hokage. He was 1/5 of the deciding factors in the fate of the whole planet. Minato was one of the most powerful men in the world. With his word, wars would start, entire civilizations would end, cultures cease to exist, and millions or more could die. And that was also the cost of flubs as well. And yet, for a man who carried the entire world upon his shoulders, the thing that caused him to crack was not his job or some political event. No. It was the birth of his first child. They had not checked the gender as they wanted to be surprised, but Kushina's intuition told her it was going to be a blue banner instead of pink. He was sure that Kushina had wanted a girl secretly, even if she never told him so. Why did he know that? Well, he knew his wife. And also, she was very similar to him, and he was secretly hoping for a boy. Internal Minato was secretly pulling the chain behind her back. What father wouldn't want a mini-me hellion running around to bond with, and what mother wouldn't secretly want an adorable little girl to dress up and just flat-out cuddle all the day long? It was natural for a parent to desire a child that they knew they could easily bond with. That and ye old battle of the sexes had left a healthy rivalry between Minato and Kushina. But despite never saying what they secretly wanted, the thing they did say about the baby was true 100%. They just wanted it to be healthy. After all, Minato was sure he could turn any girl into a tomboy anyway, and despite those happy memories of secretly joking about how they would raise the baby behind the other's back, all that was left now was pure and utter anxiety. It felt as though the world would come to an end. In the eyes of some, it was just a baby, so why overreact? Yeah, well, some weren't parents. It was nerve-wracking taking care of a child, because you had to worry every moment of every day that the baby was going to somehow get hurt, and that it would be your fault if it did. The fear that some accidental neglectful action just because you wanted an extra 30 minutes of sleep, or that secret pickle break you had to take every halfway point between meals would lead to some tragedy that would leave you destroyed. Perhaps Minato was overthinking these things, but then again, that was the job of a parent. Overthink everything. And even though he wasn't yet a father, he knew by the sound of Kushina's voice that he was about to be. So he was getting his daddy pants on now while the going was good. Now, as for Kushina, at that moment in time, the only thing she could think of was how badly this hurt. Her mind wasn't even on being a parent. Instead, she was musing to herself that this must be what it feels like in those alien movies after the facehugger has attached itself to your face. Her face was red and her temper was beginning to flare. Her complexion, now matching the temper that was the red hot-blooded habanero of the leaf, told Minato that if she wasn't too busy laying on the table pushing a baby out of her body, that she would have gotten up just to kick his ass for doing this to her. This room, despite being ground zero for a miracle, was filled with so much negativity, fear, anger, and all the while Minato was still keeping his hand upon the seal on her belly, begging the Ninetales not to come out. He was busy keeping it chained to its Chibaku Tensei. He was busy with his comically large mallet playing whack-a-mole with the spikes that were slowly pushing out of Kurama's body. His senses were focused so much so that he didn't even notice someone in the room who wasn't supposed to be there. Well, more like right outside the room, but all the same, Minato should have sensed him, but didn't. Obito, wearing his awesome tiger stripe mask, stood there watching. So, Amagi, are you really going to make me do this to her again? The answer was no, we weren't gonna make him do it again. At least not in this video. Obito had been certain that he was going to walk in there and take that baby from them and hold it hostage, but the moment he pulled his kunai and got ready to move, he heard Kushina let out well, honestly, it was the most pitiful cry he had ever heard. One that didn't sound like something such a strong woman would do. It didn't even sound like Kushina anymore. He heard Minato's voice asking about the baby, but it didn't sound like Minato. In another place in time, he heard himself in Minato's place, wearing that Haori, hands on the stomach of Rin, keeping Isobu in as their firstborn child was being born. It was so vivid in his mind that he dropped his kunai. He felt like he was going to have a heart attack the moment it happened. He felt so happy. And then suddenly he saw in his vision a man rushing in, killing the infant and taking Rin away to kill her. The emotion Obito felt from that single moment completely robbed him of all the wind that had been in his sails. Coming back to when his kunai hit the floor with a clang, he worried someone had heard it. He then heard from within that someone questioned it. He heard a voice whisper to another to go check it out. Obito's mind hit fight or flight, but realizing that he was going to chicken out, Obito turned tail and began to run. It was better this way. If they had discovered him, he would have had to fought for absolutely no reason. So Obito left the building. Peeking outside, they detected no tiger-masked man. Returning in, they finished what they were doing. Snipping the cord, they cleaned the child off and swaddled it like an adorable little present. A birthday present, presented not to the one who was born, but to the one who gave birth. The baby let off slight crying sounds, its mind, body, and spirit still arguing and attempting to find balance after such a strenuous event. Plowing past Minato, the baby was presented to Kushina, who immediately named him Naruto. When Biwako questioned the wisdom of naming their child after a food condiment, they said it was Jiraiya's idea. Oh, so it's Jiraiya's idea, huh? Might as well make his middle name Ketchup. Actually, that's a wonderful idea, Minato said. Naruto Ketchup Namikaze. Naruto Ketchup Namikaze, Kushina said with a smile. Biwako felt as if she had committed some horrible sin against this child, but alas, the birth certificate needed to be filled. Kushina held the child close as Minato, standing beside, offered a kiss to its little yellow head. Everything from before, the pain, the fear, the anger, the terror, it had all melted away. It was now apparent to Minato why this was called the miracle of life. Not only did biology create something that laboratories and science couldn't produce any other way, but it also completely wiped away the memory of all the suffering. That was what made this miracle a special one. After this had happened and the seal on the Ninetales was stabilized, they began the process of transferring Kushina and Minato to the hospital. It was through this, though, that they discovered that many of the Anbu agents left to guard the outside had been killed. Somebody definitely tried to get in, Kakashi said as he looked it over. The question is, why didn't they? The guards on the outside were the only real guards here. Any inside would have been easy pickings. So what gives? Minato had no clue, but he decided to add it to the pile of blessings he'd received that day. Not that the deaths of others were a blessing by any means, but that whoever had attacked them had not made it in during the time Kushina was giving birth. That being said, Minato found it best not to tell Kushina of these things. Transporting her to the hospital, they gladly accepted guests, though only after careful inspection by the Anbu. Minato told Kushina that it was protocol, which to a point it was, but in reality, the criteria for passing the examinations were a lot stricter than they otherwise would have been. Minato knew they got lucky, but he didn't want to have that blind him to the possibilities of what could happen, or still be in the works. It didn't take long for the clan heads to begin visiting. After all, this was a special occasion, and even if you didn't give two craps about the baby, you still gave two craps about the relationship with the Hokage, and nobody wanted to be the scar dissing on Simba's birth. The first to arrive was, of course, Fugaku and Makoto. They even brought along Sasuke and Itachi. Makoto sat down and just started talking all about childbirth. Bet it hurt, didn't it? She said. Kushina agreed. Makoto chuckled. Don't worry, all those nerves in there'll die. It'll be easier for the second baby. Kushina scoffed. Yeah, no, we're not having any other babies. Naruto is our only. Can't do it again. Minato and Fugaku's conversation consisted of a fist bump and the recent cowboys at the commander's game. Itachi, all the while, remained quiet as he observed the little pink ball of flesh named Ketchup. He compared the baby to Sasuke, who, while still small, was a bit bigger than Naruto, and at least didn't look like a very tiny senior citizen. After Fugaku, Hiruzen would be the next to visit. He would offer the couple congratulations. Minato would accept them, but would eventually step out of the room with Hiruzen. What can you tell me about the Anbu deaths reported outside the facility? Hiruzen then explained that they didn't know much at the time. All we do know, Hiruzen said, is that someone seems to have attempted to break into the facility. Their purpose is not known, but considering the high-profile nature of those within, it likely had to do with either you or Kushina. Minato nodded. Any idea why they wouldn't have attacked us in the end? Hiruzen shrugged. A kunai not connected to any of our shinobi at the facility was found discarded outside the door of the delivery room. In all likelihood, it very well could have been an enemy nation planning to either assassinate you, steal the Ninetales, or both, and maybe they got cold feet when they actually saw you. Minato agreed. Whatever the case, I'm glad they didn't try anything, but we should keep security tight around Kushina. I don't want them trying anything a second time. "We need to keep security tight around you as well. You're the Hokage after all." Minato scoffed and chuckled. "No, I don't think I need that." Hiruzen let out a disheartened, disappointed sigh that drew Minato's attention. "Hey now, what's that about?" he asked, slightly afraid he had somehow made himself look stupid. "Don't be overconfident, Minato. A whole squad of our best trained shinobi were killed like it was nothing. Even you might have an issue pulling off that feat, especially without alerting anyone. If you underestimate the enemy, you'll suffer for it. That's wisdom from an older generation. I'm not saying it's bad to have confidence, but pride is different. Don't overestimate yourself while underestimating someone else. The distance between the two of you might not be as great as you think." After Hiruzen returned home, they were visited by Hiyashi Hyuga and his wife, the latter of which was revealed to have also been pregnant. So it was only a few months later that the roles were reversed. Minato and Kushina would return to that same hospital, the same room even, to wish the Hyugas joy and happiness with their new baby. "Good luck," Minato said to Hiyashi. "You're gonna need it. The first few weeks at home are total hell." Hiyashi took in a deep breath and released it with a strained groan. "Thanks." Eventually, when nothing came of the investigation and no new threats arrived, the case of who tried to attack the Hokage while his wife was preggers, Minato was never good at naming things, went cold and was stored away somewhere for some time. Minato would go on to continue his duties as Hokage as Kushina would spend time bonding with their baby and returning to her stay-at-home wife mentality. But as the years passed, when Naruto was 4 and Hinata was having her 3rd birthday party, something rather unfortunate occurred. You see, coinciding with this birthday party was also a peace conference between the ambassadors of Kumogakure. Since the Third Shinobi World War ended, Kumo and Konoha had continued to fight between themselves, which led to a long-standing war between the two. The world had calmed, but two of its leading superpowers had not yet called it quits. But all that seemed to be over with the sudden decision to host a peace conference by Kumo, a white flag of parley, an olive branch. This gave Minato hope that peace could be restored to the world, but it was all just a ruse. The ambassadors had betrayed the white flag by attempting to use it to kidnap Hinata. Hinata was one of the few Hyuga without a curse mark to limit the theft of their Byakugan, and this peace conference presented a unique opportunity. Looking back now, Minato realized just how rigged the whole thing was, but during the time, all he could think about was that it was a funny coincidence that was stopping him from attending the birthday party. Didn't stop him from sending a gift in the mail though. That being said, what Kumo had done was a war crime, but only Konoha knew it, so it made no difference telling anyone about it. The shinobi that had been trying to steal Hinata away from her parents were killed in the attempt. Konoha began pointing fingers at Kumo, believing that to be the plan all along, but Kumo disavowed the situation, saying it was a Konoha fabrication, and that they just grabbed any random excuse so they could murder the ambassadors. Without proper proof, it became a he said, she said, and in the end, Kumo threatened to return the war to a blazing heat if Konoha did not offer justice in the form of the body of Hiyashi Hyuga. Once again, this was another attempt to get a hold of the Byakugan. But even if it wasn't, Minato wasn't about to agree to this at all. He told Kumo that there would be no trade, which left the Raikage enraged. He would then declare war on Konoha once again, leading to a full-out war. But worse than that, as the wars raged, once neutral nations began to join as well, starting another great ninja war. The 4th in the line. Sometimes Minato wondered how the future generations would remember him. After all, it was under his watchful eye that the 4th Shinobi World War began, but all the same, Minato knew that he couldn't just let his nation be walked on. If the world wanted to bully Konoha, Konoha would bully them right back, and if they desired to fight, then Konoha would take the fight to them, and remind them why they were the greatest shinobi village in the world. As the years continued to pass along though, Naruto grew and would eventually be put into the academy to be trained. He would have a few issues with the learning curve, but Minato was always there to explain it to him. After all, Minato had these same issues when he was younger, but when he got the basics of what he needed to learn, his growth rate increased exponentially. Naruto was the same way. Quickly, he went from subpar as a student to above average, and would graduate easily when he was 12, the same time that Sasuke did. The two boys had a bit of a rivalry, and due to their latent potential, they were quickly named Chunin. That was a hard choice for Minato to make though, as he knew that any Chunin ranked would immediately be sent into the battlefield, but he trusted Kakashi. Kakashi was the last surviving member of Minato's old squad, and he had personally requested that Kakashi be the mentor for the kids. He agreed to it and became the mentor of Team 7, which consisted of Naruto, Sasuke, and a young girl named Sakura. Minato couldn't help but smile as he saw it, as he was reminded of his own squad he had during the Third Shinobi World War. Kakashi likely was reminded of the same, but he never said anything. They eventually were taken out into the battlefield for the first time. Minato tried to give them warm-up lessons to help them acclimate to the new life they were living, which they did complete successfully. Then came a mission that seemed to evoke a bit of trauma for Minato and Kakashi together, but there was no one else who could handle it. So Minato passed it on to Team 7. The mission was to destroy a bridge that served as a key supply line to Kumo. The group would head for a forest close to the front lines and would begin to discuss their mission. Okay, now listen. This is a very important mission, and potentially very dangerous. You must listen to my commands and follow my orders without question as soon as I give them. Capiche? Naruto could tell that this mission was sensitive to Kakashi, so he tried not to ask about it too much and to follow orders. They began to sneak behind enemy lines, keeping to the trees as best they could. Kakashi during this time had his Sharingan active and was constantly looking from place to place to ensure that nobody had noticed them, nor that they were being followed. So far, the coast was clear. Kakashi smiled. Maybe this isn't a cursed mission after all. Suddenly, a paper bomb went off, taking out the branch he was about to land on. Kakashi fell to the ground where he rolled and landed on his feet. From the treetops, Sakura called down, "Kakashi-sensei, are you okay?" Kumo Nin began to surround them. Well, what do we have here? A bunch of kids and a washed-up Anbunin, one of the shinobi said, a rather beefy man whose head was shaved. He was strong enough to carry a log-sized iron club as a weapon, and behind him were smaller yet heavily armed shinobi. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura jumped down to aid their mentor. "Stay close," Kakashi commanded. "Cover your rears," Sasuke shouted as he pulled a kunai. "I think it's our fronts we gotta worry about," Naruto said as he also bore his weapons. "You thought you guys could make it past the Panzer Squad?" Naruto looked around. "I don't see no panzers." The beefy man laughed. "You're not looking hard enough, kid." The man displayed his metal club, which turned out to be a large cannon instead. He pulled the trigger and fired at them. They barely had enough time to get out of the way. As Naruto hit the ground, his ears were ringing. The man that they would from now on just call Panzer began to reload his cannon. As they got up, the other shinobi around them began to attack. They were outnumbered 3-1. They tried to stay close. "We need a narrow area where we can bottleneck them," Naruto said. "That's not a good idea, Naruto," Sasuke shouted. "With that cannon, they'll shred us to pieces in an enclosed space." Kakashi thought about it. "No, wait, it's actually a great idea." "What?" Sakura shouted. "How is us getting killed a great idea?" Kakashi then began to run. "Just trust me." They found a ravine which would serve their purpose and began to run through it. "That cannon's gonna tear us apart," Sasuke said. "Correction, it's gonna tear them apart." Team 7 was confused. Looking back, they saw the shinobi coming. Panzer raised his cannon and fired. However, the moment he lifted it, Kakashi activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. Kamui! He captured the cannonball out of midair and a moment later utilized Kamui again to open another portal that sent it back out the other side, having barely lost any momentum. The ball shot through the air, breaking the sound barrier a second time before plowing through most of the shinobi, with Panzer only barely escaping the shot. Realizing he's lost his advantage, he begins to pull back, but not before flashing a toothy grin signifying that this isn't the last they'll see of him. "I didn't like the way that guy looked at us," Sasuke said. "He looked like such a twit," Naruto said. "He overestimated himself and his team, but Kakashi-sensei showed him what for." Kakashi let out a sigh. "We better hurry, or we're gonna get caught before the mission's complete." The moment they turned around, Kakashi notices that something's wrong. Wait, Sakura! Sakura! There's no answer to Kakashi's call. Then he understands what's happening. They captured her. At that moment, everything Kakashi had ever wrestled with from his own team under Minato came rushing back. Memories of Rin and Obito. His life felt like it was on loop. No, I'm not losing another member of my team. Kakashi walks over to the group of shinobi and finds one that's still alive. He pulls him up and shakes him awake. "Where is she?" The man doesn't seem to understand. "Where's your base of operations? Where's Panzer?" The shinobi holds his tongue. That is until Kakashi's Mangekyo glares into his vision. "You will tell me, or I'll make you suffer 1,000 of the most painful executions that my twisted mind can come up with before I allow you to die in reality. Tell me where Panzer is and you might walk out of this with your life." The shinobi, likely no older than 17, already hobbled for life, dealing with the immense pain and knowledge that his body is horrifically and permanently destroyed, cannot cope with the terror presented by Kakashi's threat. Kakashi's Sharingan, despite being powerful with Genjutsu, was telling no lies currently. He was going to do everything he said he would unless the man spilled his guts. And so, he did just that. He told Kakashi exactly where to find Panzer. "He's in a cave, deep at the side of a nearby cliff face." "Where?" Kakashi demanded. The man gave the coordinates. Kakashi then let the man go and began heading in that direction. Sasuke and Naruto were shocked. "Kakashi-sensei?" Kakashi didn't even look back at them. "Stay close to me, that's an order." Without question, they followed their mentor. He led them to the place that the shinobi had said that Panzer had gone. Within, they saw Sakura sitting down, tied up. This was uncanny. "The famed shinobi of the Sharingan Eye, a stolen eye of great power. I know all about you, Kakashi. I've studied you for years. The thing about killing a legend is that once you do it, you become a legend yourself." "So that's what this is for?" Kakashi asked. "For popularity. Seems like a rather stupid thing to waste your life on." Panzer shrugged as he held his cannon, wiping the smudges from its surface. "When I become a national hero and possess the Sharingan myself, I think it'll be time well spent." "That is, if you live long enough to see the sun again," Kakashi said. "I promise you now, Beefcake, you're never gonna make it out of this cave alive." "We'll see," Panzer said as he readied his cannon like a club. Kakashi rushed forward with his Chidori, taking one of the 3 nameless shinobi out before moving back to handle Panzer himself. Sasuke and Naruto would engage with the other 2 shinobi and, due to their prodigious natures, easily dispatch the 2. Kakashi would then use his speed against Panzer, knowing that it was his advantage. Panzer was stronger and had greater defense, but because of his bulk he was slow, and that made it hard for him to hit Kakashi. "Now that I'm up close and personal, this is almost pathetic. I can't believe I was ever intimidated by you. Your big, useless cannon was more intimidating than your fat ass ever was." Panzer smashed the massive hunk of metal into the ground, causing a thud and a reverberation that made pebbles fall from the ceiling, threatening the stability of the cave. Kakashi knew he had to end this soon, so he utilized his Chidori as soon as he could to strike Panzer with a fatal wound. Panzer, baffled by how such a shrimp could hurt him like this, stumbled back and fell against the wall. "You made a mistake, Panzer. If you knew everything there was to know about me, then you should have known that it takes a lot to piss me off. But when I'm pissed off, all hell breaks loose. I guess it's too late for you to learn that now. Die, lamenting your failures." As he sat there, Panzer coughed up blood and began to laugh, much to Kakashi's confusion. "What's so funny?" Kakashi asked. "You were right," Panzer said. "I'm never making it out of this cave alive. But neither are you." Panzer held up his cannon and with his last bit of strength fired it up into the cave ceiling, prompting a collapse. Kakashi saw it and had flashbacks of everything that had happened with Obito. Kakashi turned back to see them finishing untying Sakura. "Sasuke, grab Naruto! Chidori!" Kakashi weaved hand signs for his Chidori, as did Sasuke. Kakashi ran through, using the speed of his technique to hasten his running speed. He picked up Sakura, and like a flash of lightning, they were out of the cave. Looking back, he saw Naruto holding on for dear life as Sasuke rushed out with his Chidori too. They just barely got out as the cave collapsed. Kakashi, like a terrified parent, began counting heads and examining for boo-boos. Content that there was nothing there, Kakashi let out a sigh of relief. "You're all fine. That's good." "What happened in there, Kakashi-sensei? We've been in danger before, but you've never acted like that." Kakashi was silent as he pondered the question. Now is not the time for that. We need to get to the bridge and sabotage it. Realizing that Kakashi was not in the mood to be messed with, they all followed him in silence. Getting to the bridge, they began to set various explosives on, under, and around the bridge. They not only wanted to decimate it, but also the materials and surrounding structure so that no bridge could ever be built here again. Perhaps it was overkill, but this was on the orders of Minato. As they finished with the bridge though, they began to retreat to a safe distance. Feeling somewhat safe, Kakashi waited for Naruto, but he never showed up. Fearing that he got stuck on the bridge, Kakashi left the plunger behind and told Sasuke and Sakura not to touch it until he got back. Kakashi made it out to the bridge to get Naruto, but as he did so, he was startled by what he saw. Standing in the very center of the bridge was Panzer. His body bloodied, face disfigured, somehow still alive. He looked like he was only being held together by pain, anger, and hatred itself. The need for vengeance was pumping in place of blood, and the strength of his wrath replaced the broken bones riddled throughout his body. In his clutches, he held Naruto. Panzer didn't speak. He had what he wanted, his revenge. Pointing his cannon toward the nearest stack of TNT, he fired, despite Kakashi crying for him not to. The entire bridge went up in a massive explosion, knocking Kakashi back. Everything was dark for a moment. All he heard was the ringing in his ears. When he came to, Sakura and Sasuke were by his side, Sakura crying hysterically. Sasuke was looking back at the bridge. There was nothing left of it, nor the people who'd stood upon it. Kakashi felt no pain, only a cold chill. His body was in shock. As he looked down, he noticed the hard truth. His right arm was gone, and he was missing both legs above the knees. Looking toward the bridge, he saw the flames. Realizing Naruto was on there, Kakashi knew that he must be dead. "Naruto's dead," he said within himself. "How am I ever going to tell Minato-sensei?" And that's where I'm going to call it for the day. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and a comment below. We want to hear from you. Let us know what you'd like to see in the next video, and if the idea is really good, we might just adapt it. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. Also, be sure to check out our other videos like the ones on your screen right now. Until next time, peace.